Unfat shaming is just as much of a thing as fat shaming. Let's talk about it. Hey y'all, I wanted to have a discussion about fat shaming and something that shouldn't be a thing but is now a thing. Not to say that fat shaming should be, but now unfat shaming is actually a thing. So most of us are familiar with the term fat shaming and have more than likely at some point been a victim of, or maybe even a participant in at some point in our lives. You know, we probably fat shamed someone or been fat shamed ourselves. But a term that most of us may not be familiar with is unfat shaming. That's because I just made up the term. This term is not to be confused with fit shaming, as fat shaming is a little different, or at least it is to me and by my definition of the term. And I'll explain those terms, later in the video as well. But what even prompted the need for this discussion, however, is that it now seems that being overweight and obese is so socially acceptable. It's so much of a social acceptance that now there's a thing in which you unfat shame someone, and I felt the need to address it in a video. So first, let's get into the definitions. So the definition is as follows. This is the noun: the action or practice of humiliating someone judged to be fat or overweight by making mocking or critical comments about their size. That's the noun definition. The adjective definition is expressing mockery or criticism about someone judged to be fat or overweight. So first, what I want to do, I feel a need to clarify or reduce any confusion, because to me, fat shaming shouldn't be confused with constructive criticism or honest feedback, because while it may hurt or sting, it is truly coming from a positive place from those who care about us and only want the best for us. So there's a such thing as honest, true, constructive criticism or feedback that is not fat shaming. But what I want to do before I discuss further about fat shaming is I want to define fit shaming. The issue with the definition of fit shaming is I could find no real, quote unquote, official definition of this phrase. So I opted for a more funny and exaggerated definition, which is pretty much the only one that I found online from urbandictionary.com. Claiming that people who are active, healthy, and God forbid have the slightest care about their physical appearance are terrible, shallow people. The definition goes on to say, this makes it more acceptable to eat cake all day and never see the light of day or walk anywhere. This practice of shaming was made up by the larger members of society who have less self-esteem and try to make it look out of the norm to be fit and healthy. This kind of practice makes it seem more normal for someone to be on a scooter at age 30 with no joint problems compared to someone who regularly goes to the gym. End definition. So finally, what I would like to define is unfat shaming. And just like fit shaming, there is no official definition. Why? Again, because I just made it up. So the phrase is basically going to be defined as K, aka Pear's definition, which to a degree is basically the antithesis of the adjective form of fat shaming. So here goes. Unfit shaming. Attempting to mock or criticize an individual for losing weight and or deciding to lead a healthier lifestyle, as opposed to the continuation of a lifestyle that would ultimately lead to the denigration and further degradation of the victim's health. That's my definition. Now, seeing as how unfat shaming is an attempt, it can either be a verb or a noun. Just depends on what context it's used in. So, basically, fat shaming and unfat shaming alike are both typically coming from a negative place. You know, usually when you shame someone about their weight or the fact that they're losing weight, usually it's coming from somewhere negative. And this is typically done by so-called friends, which I guess we should more appropriately refer to them as associates, co-workers, and or relatives. And while fat shaming can be done for multiple reasons, unfat shaming is more often than not a projection of the participant's own insecurities. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you start to lose weight or get healthier, there may be those in your circle who start to become very uncomfortable with your newfound lifestyle because, in all honesty, they're not personally ready to make any health related changes to their own life. And so now you're a problem. So you've now indirectly drawn attention to the fact that they too may need to make some health changes. I mean, let's be honest. Birds of a feather typically, flock together. So most of us hang out with or are associated with people who are a physical reflection of ourselves most of the time. And so when you stop and think about it, like how often do you see a group of very fit people hanging out with very, obese or overweight people? I mean, be honest, stop and think about it for a second. I mean, it's usually either or, right? So you usually associate with and spend time with those who have similar interests and are typically at the same physical level as yourself, right? So now the problem is the elephant in the room. I mean, for lack of another way to put it, the problem is now the elephant in the room. And no pun intended, but you no longer want to be the elephant in the room. And the other elephants don't want to be reminded that they're elephants. So now the insults begin. And the insults, however, aren't direct insults. They're more so coming about in the form of slick shade, sideways comments, subliminals posted on social media. And God forbid you've had any form of weight loss surgery. Oh my goodness. Because now what you've done is you've equipped these friends, family members, and co-workers with what they feel is even more ammunition to unfat shame you, basically. So ultimately, it's time to get a new circle, boo. How many times have you seen it? Your favorite celebrity or singer, comedian, actress, actor who lost weight, and you've seen the comments and the posts on the internet, and just stop to think about it from a personal standpoint. That actually happens to regular people. It's just much more publicized when you are a celebrity or a public figure, of course. But it happens to regular people on a regular basis. You know, you decide to lose weight, change your lifestyle, and people start to unfat shame you, which is ridiculous. You know, and it's honestly, to me, I feel like it's sad that we live in an age where any and everything is now supposed to be accepted, yet we refuse to accept people making healthy lifestyle changes and doing things like losing weight and changing their eating habits and working out, because it makes those who are supposed to be the most happy for us the most uncomfortable. So, to be honest, unfat shaming is actually a projection of the participants' own insecurities. I said this earlier, but I felt the need to say it again because that's honestly exactly what it is. You know, there's really nothing you can do about it except attempt to educate those interested in making lifestyle changes, but distance yourself from the denigrators. There's no need to keep people in your life who attempt to make you uncomfortable about the health choices and decisions that you've made because they are uncomfortable with who they are and where they are in their lives. It's all about progression and elevation, and if they aren't ready to do so and choose to take it out on you in a negative way, you don't need those people in your life. There are tons of people who are more than willing and ready to accept you and your newfound lifestyle. And it's really sad when you have to cut people off because you are on a more positive, healthy journey, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, everybody will not be able to accept you and your newfound lifestyle. So, have you ever personally been a victim of fat or unfat shaming? I mean, how did you deal with it? I would love to know, because there are a lot of people out there who struggle with their own personal acceptance after they've been treated or ostracized by their so-called friends and family members after they've made certain health decisions or after they've decided to live healthier lives. Let me know if you have any of your own personal stories. I'd love to read them and find out about them. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe and turn the notifications on. And I will talk to y'all in the next video. Bye.